All right, we are back here in the locker room with Billy Schweim on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Starting my 5th year. Can't believe it, Josh. Time flies when you're having fun. And Josh was there. Josh was with me from the very beginning, opening day.
I was at inception.
the infancy of the locker room. And we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of wild guests, and we've had a lot of fun over the 4 years. And we're going to continue that today. I got a special guest here in the studio with me. Not too often do we get the honor of having people with us, but I want to welcome into the locker room. You're actually in the locker room with me right now. Former Holy Cross High School standout. He went to the University of Maryland where he was a Terrapin, and then he was a Dallas Cowboy. Phil Costa, man, welcome into the locker room.
Bill, thanks for having me here, man.
All right, man, good to see you.
You too.
You and I got a chance to speak last couple days, and in anticipation of having you in here, and I pulled up your we Googled you, pulled up all your information, and
you find anything good in there?
Well, I'm looking at your picture, and I'm like, you look like a linebacker, not a center.
Man, I played I played at 315, weigh about 240 now, so
right. Lost
a lot of weight.
Yeah. Well, you did tell me that you played at 315. That the amount of protein that you had to take in.
Oh my! If you saw my breakfast, you'd throw up. I'm
telling you,
you
probably almost did too, right?
I mean, it'd be like a dozen eggs, 10 egg whites, whole eggs, and put that in with Greek yogurt. Put that in with almond milk, and it's it's not what you want to drink in the morning, but it was good for that time to as an athlete, it was great.
Well, I really appreciate you coming down here, and we're going to talk about the book. You got a new a book out that you're going to promote. You're going to be signing autographs and doing some promotion for it. The Transition Playbook for Athletes: How Elite Athletes Win After Sports.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a book. So we got 100 athletes together, college, pro, and Olympic. We got 25 Olympians from 30 different sports. From 8 different countries from all over the world, and they share advice on how they successfully transitioned from sports to how they how they found success after sports. They're doctors, lawyers, CEOs, and they share their advice. So it's about a chapter an athlete.
And you hear so many times of athletes, professional athletes, falling from grace or making bad business decisions. Guys that we've heard. How many stories have we heard over the years of guys with big, huge contracts, millions and millions of dollars, and then 5 years after they get out of the sport, they're broke?
It's too common, and that's the stat right there, is 80% of athletes 5 years out are broke, bankrupt, divorced. And Trying to change that statistic, hopefully this is a resource for these players, current and former athletes, trying to change that stat with this book.
Now, with the advent of these huge contracts, the elite players, they pretty much, by and large, have something to fall back on nowadays. But you're talking, when did you got out of the game? What?
My last year was 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
So in a short five years, I mean, these contracts have just ballooned, especially in football now and basketball, baseball as well, but hockey not so much. But still a lot more than just 4 short years ago.
100%. And I mean, not that, guys weren't making good money then, but like you said, they certainly have ballooned from even 5 years ago.
And you co-wrote the book. Your co-author is Rob Curley. We're going to get him on the phone here in a few minutes. He has a previous engagement. He's going to a graduation.
Yeah, he's heading up to Villanova today. So Rob Curley is a South Jersey guy. Went to high school with me at Holy Cross. Known him since we were about 13 years old. Met him in homeroom. We've been running the street for a while together. Rob is he was the standout athlete at Lafayette, played quarterback, played professionally for 5 years, played all over in Europe, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, and he's actually home right now for about a month. He lives over in Switzerland with his wife there, but he's home right now as we're doing the book tour.
So Phil, let's take a step back because I think your story is kind of funny, especially when I spoke with you the other day. I'm going to take a lot of heat for having a cowboy in here. You know that, by
yeah,
I get it. There's people want to come after me today.
First of all, if anybody comes after you, they have to go through me. Okay.
Well, I guess
this is doggone cool to have Phil in here. Someone's got to probably wear a Cowboys helmet. Maybe they're the one that should be fearing us. because there's 3 of us and not as many of them.
Well, here's the see, he's sticking up for me. See that, Phil? That's why.
Well, you guys both got on Cowboys T-shirts now. I'm kidding.
No, because especially during football season, I give it to Cowboy fans. I mean, we go at it.
You're kidding me.
We go at it, right, Josh? I mean, we go at it. I mean, screaming.
Well, you go.
I go at it.
I'm the objective guy in the room.
Yeah, he is. He has more of a calming presence. I get all fired up because I can never understand how anybody that grew up in this area, how can they become a Cowboys fan or for any other team that matters?
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's but somehow it's always the Cowboys or the Steelers, and you know why? Because look at the teams that won back in the 70s and 80s.
And still winning.
And, well, the Cowboys not really.
Well, here's the thing. I get a pass for it. I get it. I grew up here in South Jersey.
You were a big Eagles fan.
I grew up an Eagles fan. I grew up Phillies, Flyers, Sixers.
Who was your favorite Eagle growing up?
Randall Cunningham.
Really?
Yeah, big fan of Randall. But I grew up. I get a pass for it where other people, my family and friends, they wouldn't cheer for me. It took a while until they would cheer.
It had to be painful.
Oh, they couldn't wait till I was done playing for them. I swear to God.
You did go to the Colts too, right?
I did for a brief time. I was there, but I was down.
Was that a little easier pill to swallow?
Man, I was just happy to be anywhere.
Yeah,
Honestly, right. I was so happy to be playing.
But Phil, you did say, Jerry Jones, wrote the check, so it made it a lot easier, a lot bit more palatable, right?
Exactly. Yeah, playing for Dallas down there, he's writing the checks. I was grateful to be on a team, and especially with a team like Dallas.
How about being down in Dallas? People knew that you were from the Philadelphia area. How'd that go over?
So it's funny, which is the people down there. The fans are, and here's the thing. I get it from up here. The fans down there are just really friendly, and I would not describe Philly fans as friendly. They're passionate, passionate fans. I love it.
See, I think they're front runners. I have a story. You said Randall Cunningham?
Yeah.
I went down to a Cowboys game when Randall Cunningham was the quarterback. And the Cowboys, I think that year were 1-15. I think this is the first year Troy Aikman was Troy Aikman's first year. Place had 30,000 people on it. It was dead. So it was half full.
Okay.
Or half empty, depending upon the way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You never saw that when the Eagles stunk throughout the 70s. That place was still sold out.
Huh. You
know that people show up. Whether the Eagles win or lose, that place has been filled up. When I was down in Dallas, I was shocked.
About what?
The lack of enthusiasm for a team that was one at that time was Troy Aikman's first year. They were one in whatever it was. They weren't. What's that? Yeah, that was their final. I was there I guess 10 games into it, so they still only had one win.
And that was also the year that the game that they won.
I think it was 86.
Didn't start.
Was that 86?
I thought
86,
it was
87,
89,
86, 80, something like that.
What have you done for me? What have you done for me lately,
well,
Billy?
So you guys remember, see,
that's what it's about.
Can we put history in context here? See, remember, this was right around it was 89. This was the second year basically that Jerry Jones had owned the team.
Right.
And it was very controversial with Jerry Jones buying the team because of the fact that he was an outsider. He wasn't really a Texan. He was originally from Arkansas.
Right.
So there's a lot of people.
They just got rid of Landry.
Right. People were like, oh, there's this guy with a lot of money who wanted to buy a football team. They had no faith in him. They got rid of the legend Landry, as Billy mentioned. Jimmy Johnson comes in from college.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, here's the guy with the fancy hair and the tan and all this stuff. And there was an attitude. And look, people were already mad. And then you're not winning any games. Well, by the way, that game you're mentioning, Bill,
is that the game that Troy Aikman got drilled?
That would be November 23rd,
yes,
1989.
Yeah.
The Eagles beat them 27-0.
Yeah, we smoked them. We smoked you guys.
Oh, man.
Well,
what have you done for me lately? That's what it's about, Bill.
So talk to us a little bit about your football career because you played – what position did you play in high school?
I was offensive line my entire career.
Your entire career.
Yep.
Like I said, you look at him right now, Josh. You look like, you're a stud. You're a stud, good-looking guy. I'm looking at I just can't get over how different you look from your playing picture to now.
Well, it turns out the shaved head and the beard down to my chest, that's not as a professional look that I should have now. So I changed the look, lost weight, and it's definitely a change from weighing 315.
And you ran a 5'1" 40.
I was flying, man. 5'1", are you kidding me?
I guess that's fast for an offensive lineman.
That's
right?
actually not bad. For an O-line, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Man.
So then did you get a full ride to Maryland?
Yes. Yeah, I was down in Maryland, played down there for 5 years. We went to some bowl games down there. Coach Friesian, Ralph Friesian was my head coach. Yeah.
We had Gary Williams on, your famous basketball coach.
Oh, yeah.
At Maryland. He's from Collingswood.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we had Gary on, but so we had a few Turpins on here.
There you
the
go.
second one.
Go Terps.
And then you were undrafted.
Yep.
So you had to walk on basically. You were invited to camp, but you're technically a walk on.
So pretty much, if you read the papers, after 1 week, I'm not supposed to be there. I'm there for a week. After a month, this guy, don't worry, he's not going to make it. Well, that turned into 4 years.
Wow.
And
who was your competition? Like who was the starting center that you took the job away from?
So Andre Grode, he was a great mentor, great player, and I actually came in as the 4th string center, beat out the 3rd string guy,
Wow.
the 2nd string guy. He was hurt, and I was playing well, and I was dressing for the first game. I was the backup guy my first year, so it wasn't just like, hey, you're in Dallas, you arrived. It was grinding every day to just stay on the team.
And Bill, we'll get with
you got
to explain the story about how you got thrust into the starting role. We'll do that in a little bit because the way I remember this, because I was hosting a morning show at the time. When you ended up in that starting role, from our perspective, it must have been interesting for you as well. But from the outsiders, it was the most bizarre thing. The way you ended up getting that starting job. Not that you didn't earn it, but like the series of events that led up to Andre no longer being the starting center and you taking that job. We got to hear from you.
We'll break it all down. We get the whole hour with.
It's so insane.
Yeah, we have the whole hour with you, Phil. I'm excited about that. So if people want to text in, chime in, you go to the text board at 609-403-0973. If you want to ask a question to Phil on the text board, 609-403-0973. If you'd like to call the program and talk to the Cowboy himself, it's 609-573-3776 is the phone number, and we have you for the whole hour. I'm excited about that. We'll talk about your book a little bit more in depth as we move along through the second hour. All right, we're back here in the locker room, a special edition of the locker room. We're joined in the studio today by Phil Costa, former Dallas Cowboy. He's got a book out called The Transition Playbook for Athletes, How Elite Athletes Win After Sports. And we're talking to Phil, and we're going to bring up his partner in a second. We'll remind people the text board is open, 609-403-0973. If you'd like to shoot us a text and ask Phil a question or make a comment, or you give us a call at 609-573-3776. And let's go to the phone lines now, Phil, and introduce your partner, Rob Curley. Rob, welcome into the locker room.
Hey, Billy. Hey, Phil. Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we brought up Phil in the beginning, and he told us you guys met in homeroom when you were 13. So who was the class clown?
I think it was a pretty good combination of both of us, man. Two guys like us in one homeroom, man. That must have been murder on the teacher. But years later, we're still together. So it had definitely brought us together for sure.
So you guys are collaborating on a book that's new. That's just going to be. It's out now.
So it'll be out in 2 weeks. Right now, all pre-sales, all pre-sale proceeds will be donated to charity. And they'll be donated to the Athlete Foundation, which supports youth sports.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Rob, Phil told me a little bit about you, and of course, read your bio. You're a man after my own heart, played quarterback. So you were the brains, he was the brawn.
Some version of that, man. Some version of that. He's a center, so, that's, I'd say, the next best guy, in terms of smarts on the line. But, we definitely kept him for his, his strength.
Hey, Rob, I'm looking at his. We were talking about this. I googled him. I'm looking at his picture from his football days. Looks nothing like him.
Yeah, I know, man.
He's actually good looking now.
Always been, brother.
Phil says, hey, I used to be. I still am, but I used to be too.
Hey, Rob, you guys. So you grew up. You guys were big Eagles fans growing up, and then your best friend goes to the Cowboys. Did you give him a hard time when that happened?
Man, I tell you, everyone, really everyone gave him a hard time for that. But it's one of those things. I mean, your best friend goes to play for any any NFL team, you're going to start following them. But yeah, it was definitely harder on my family, I think, than me. These games we watched. We went down to a few games in Dallas, and have some funny stories about that. But I'd say it was harder on my family than than on me.
All right, so you guys have both had a lot of it. Phil, you were going to tell me the story. Why don't you start that story?
Well, to add to that, where Rob Curley and another friend, they're down in the family section with the Dallas Cowboys, wearing all their Eagles gear, cheering EAGLES Eagles in the family section down there, spilling beer on teammates' wives, and they're getting the crowd going, realizing they have nobody to high five because they're cheering for the Eagles in the Cowboys family section.
Did you guys make it to the playoffs? How many times did you make the playoffs when you were there?
Come on now, Bill. Come on, man.
So I got to needle him, Rob.
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen. The guy earned that needling. You go down there and put on the star for a while, man. You definitely deserve a needling, let's say, when you come back home for sure.
All right, so we're joined today with Rob Curley and Phil Costa. Both played for Holy Cross football, high school. Played high school football there. You went on to Lafayette, Rob, where you played quarterback, and I guess you had some stints in Europe playing football overseas.
Yeah, I did. So I played 4 years at Lafayette. I played for about 2.5, 3 years up there. Had some pretty good success, and then after my career ended in college, I had the opportunity to go play abroad for a while. So I spent about 5 seasons overseas. I played in countries like Sweden and Switzerland. I played a season in Italy. So for me, it was an amazing opportunity to kind of continue my career and travel the world and eat some great food and meet some awesome people.
No, Rob, did you make any money over there? I mean, it's not obviously as big as it is here, but I mean, there's money to be made overseas, right?
Yeah, I mean, typically what they do, it's kind of the system is set up so you can support yourself while you're there, but it's not really, like you're sending money back home. So what they would do is, pay for your phone and, like a small meal plan,
right.
A car, a gym pass, all that kind of stuff, and then give you another couple $1,000 on top. So, mostly it was party money. So, kind of take that money, go somewhere else, and, travel Europe, and
So you're over there having fun too.
I'm trying my best. So
all right, so Rob and Phil, whose idea was this for the book? Who did you guys collaborate this to come up with it together, or how did it come about?
So it was a combination. It was it's been a 3-year project where we really, over the past year, really wrote down or sat and focused on making this into a book. But it was fun, man. Get to work with my best friend, former athlete, and, a Tuesday is calling an Olympic gold medalist and saying, hey, let me ask you some questions.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's not a
like
bad
a journalist
Tuesday.
in a way, right? You're like a journalist.
We were, and, that's what was cool about it is how receptive a lot of these athletes were because they care about this topic. The transition from sports is tough. It's not an easy thing. And we wrote it because, I struggled with it. I know Rob did as well. And to us, the resources out there, all the books that are out there, they weren't good enough for us.
Right.
So we hope, this helps accelerate the process for other athletes.
Now, after college, you got an MBA from Columbia, was it? Or no, where'd
yes.
you go?
Yeah, Columbia, up in New York.
So that in and of itself is a great achievement for after professional sports.
I loved it, man. I went up there. So for 2 years, I didn't breathe. I worked in medical device sales. Worked in heart surgeries, did that for a number of years, simultaneously going every other weekend up to New York from Philly where I was living at the time. And for 2 years, didn't breathe, but I loved every second of it.
So you put the time in, and Rob, I mean, going to Lafayette, that school is a brain factory. That's known for its academics.
Yeah, I don't know how I slipped in there, man. I must have went through a lifetime spiral, man. One of those things, man. But I'm definitely blessed that I went there and met a ton of great people and really opened my eyes up to kind of how the other half lives and so I can I always feel like I can speak because I'm an athlete. I can speak to people from all different kind of backgrounds, and then going to Lafayette, that was kind of like the other end of the spectrum where people are blessed with a ton of money and resources. So kind of have a foot in both worlds was really educational for me.
Well, he can speak to that in German too. So Rob's fluent in German. Like I said,
right?
Yeah. Well, his wife, she's from Switzerland.
Okay.
And now Rob speaks German. So it's he can speak to a lot of people.
So what's the hardest thing for athletes to overcome after they get out? Is it the fame, the lack of the spotlight? I mean, you had the spotlight on you, good looking guy. You probably have people chasing you down, right? I mean. Right, if people want to be want to be around you, you want to be part of your crew, if you will. So, what's the hardest thing for an athlete to transition to?
probably one of the hardest things is the loss of identity. You know, you walk into places and you're the athlete.
Right. You're the spotlight, man.
Yeah. And that's one thing that a lot of athletes, they face and they have challenges with. And one thing in the book, you know, where it's advice for, well, how do you overcome that? And the answer from interviewing these 100 athletes, you know, 25 Olympians, what we found is the earlier an athlete starts to prepare for the inevitable transition, the more successful they will be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys you hear cautionary tales of guys drinking and doing drugs after because they can't deal with the letdown, I guess, right? The high.
Well, even before, so yesterday I was down in Baltimore with about 15 NFL players, 10 current, 5 former, and, you know, a guy reminded me as I'm talking to him about this book he goes, man, thinking about transitioning from the NFL is like thinking about death. Nobody wants to think about, and I get it. Nobody wants to think about death. It's like, man, I'm just trying to survive here and do my best here. And I get that part, but that's also, you know, why it's so important to be thinking about this topic while you're still playing and doing things to prepare so you can make a smooth and successful transition.
Yeah, and you have a caption here too by Dr. Caroline Sibley. She's the one that she's the author.
She's an expert sports psychologist. So she has a chapter in the book.
Beyond birth and death, transitioning out of sport into perhaps the most significant change athletes will ever face is going to the real world.
It's a real thing. It's a tough thing, and that's why the stats are so jarring. You know, with how many people do struggle and fall into drugs, drinking, and other problems.
Rob, you on the other hand, not quite as much in the spotlight as Phil. What was your hardest transition?
Yeah, for me, I mean, you know, same idea. It's, you know, definitely tied up with, you know, my kind of self-identity. But for me, it was also like part ego as well. You know, like all, you know, like kind of the bigger picture of like, who am I and kind of my place in this thing. And then, you know, as I'm a quarterback, I'm always a leader on the field. I'm always, you know, kind of the guy people look to. And then that kind of goes away and, you know, no one's looking to me anymore. And I'm kind of, you know, for me, it's, you know, pull back and you kind of realize like, all right, you know, like who is really on my team and what do I represent now that I'm no longer an athlete? So kind of going through that process of you know, overcoming my ego was definitely.
You know, I would imagine too that people, Rob and Phil, I would imagine that when you leave the game, people probably leave you a little bit too, right? You're no longer, you know, in the spotlight. I'm not talking about your true friends. I'm talking about people that wanted to be around you because you're athletes.
You know, I think I think it goes to who you surround yourself with while you're playing. You know, for me, I didn't really face that. I was fortunate that, you know, I had people like Rob. I had different mentors, coaches that I surrounded myself with who do pick up the phone. But the difference is, and here's a light bulb moment for a lot of athletes, is when you're playing, everything's coming to you. Your agent's calling you, businesses are calling you, you're calling, hey, can I get these guys on the show, do that? And the calls are coming in. The difference and the thing that changes where athletes have to, you know, get this is after sports, you have to be the first one to reach out.
You got to be the one.
You got to call, and people will still take that call. But you know, if you need help or you want something, they don't know it unless you call. And you know, now it's something they have not done typically in their career, where they have to make the first call.
It looks like a great read, the Transition Playbook for Athletes: How Elite Athletes Win After Sports. It'll be on sale in a couple weeks. You go at Barnes. You're going to be do a book signing at Barnes & Noble. Yeah,
so June 1st in Cherry Hill, we're going to be doing a book signing at noon. Cherry Hill Barnes & Noble is right behind Wegmans there.
Yeah.
On Haddonfield Road, and it'll be out in 2 weeks. Right now, you can it's on a pre-sale on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, and all pre-sale proceeds
get it on Kindle.
Kindle, yeah. All pre-sale proceeds donated to charity.
That's awesome, Josh. Do we have any text messages? You said there had a couple texts coming in.
Yeah, we'll got them on the other side of the break. We gotta get the break.
All right, okay. Let's.
Gotta pay the bills.
He's my ambassador, Quan.
Hey man, someone's got to keep.
All right, Rob,
right?
you hold on. Phil's in the studio. We're talking with Rob Curley and Phil Costa about their book, The Transition Playbook for Athletes: How Elite Athletes Win After Sports. All right, we're back here in the locker room. We have Phil Costa and Rob Curley here in the locker room. Well, Rob's on the phone. Phil's in the studio. We're talking about the book, The Transition Playbook for Athletes: How Elite Athletes Win After Sports. And their book is going to be on sale in a couple weeks. Go online, pick it up.
Yeah, right now, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all pre-sale proceeds go to charity.
All right, so we're talking about the book, and we got Rob on the line. Who's your audience? Who are you trying to? Obviously, you want other athletes to read it, but who else is your audience?
So it's current and former college, professional, and Olympic athletes. We have 100 athletes in the book, 25 Olympians from 30 different sports. But also what we're starting to find out is more people are reading the book, and we give advance copies is, they're like, well, this is for my junior, senior in high school. This is for me. I'm 60. They'll say I'm 65 years old and I'm transitioning from, working my entire career to retirement. And they think it's for them as well because they're finding, pieces of information that will help them during that transition.
And Rob, we have you on the line still. Rob, what about people, young kids that like Phil just said, like with money? Do you have dedicated any part of the book to like financial, how to save money, how to invest it?
Yeah, that was kind of a bit of a touchy subject for us because we didn't want to really push anybody towards specific apps or banks or anything like that. Most of the information for there and us is really supposed to be kind of first steps for these kids and these young professionals. Is it really like, what's the first couple things you do? Like where do you go to talk about money, in the first place? And then, who are you looking to as mentors and who's helping you manage that kind of stuff? So that's kind of more the direction that we're trying to help the kids with. A lot
of athletes too come from single family homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't maybe have the parental guidance that you guys, some people are blessed to have.
And exactly, to add to, the financial piece as well, the best financial advice I ever got was from Jerry Jones.
Really?
Exactly, yeah. So when I was a rookie down in Dallas, he's speaking to the entire team, and he goes, guys, I'm going to share in one sentence the key to financial success. And he says it's have a big front door and a small back door. Have more money coming in than is going out. And he goes, if you do that, you'll save money. And it sounds so simple, but
does,
a lot of people, a lot of athletes, we've got to keep this conversation going.
I know back in the day when I was telling you that my friendship with some of the Flyers, I know they had people come in and speak to the team about that stuff, financial stuff, who to watch out for, who to be friends with, who to stay away from, things like that. Did the Cowboys have that as well?
We did, and bringing up the Flyers, we have Bill Clement, from the area, local guys who are in this book. Bill Clement's one of them. Jamal Jackson, who was an Eagles player. Chad Lewis, who was an Eagles player as well. He shares they all do share some awesome advice on this topic of transition.
All right, Josh, do we have some texts you want to go to? I got some people have sent a text to us.
Yeah,
they sent us some lovely messages about
Are they calling the Rip
Cowboys?
Phil about being a Cowboy?
Well, we got 609-403-0973. Nick from Brigantine wants to know, does Phil walk around the Philly area in his Cowboys jersey?
No, but I think you got cowboy boots on, don't you?
Exclusively in the Cowboys jersey.
No. Boots on.
Nah, man, that's the thing is, and here's what's funny about it is when I was playing, my mom came to the game in Philly. I said, Mom, please don't wear the hat. Don't wear a Cowboys hat. And she's wearing the hat. My brother's sitting next to her, not wearing the hat because he just knows how it goes in Philly. And she's getting yelled at the entire game. And after the game, she goes, I'll never come to another Eagles game again. and you know what? I'm like, Mom, I told you not to. I get it. I grew up here. I love the fans here.
When you became a starter, what was that like? When you finally reached the the pinnacle, you're starting in the NFL. That's a great responsibility. What was that? Tell us about our listeners about that experience.
I loved it, man. And it's the idea of when preparation meets opportunity. That's when success occurs. And I was fortunate to get an opportunity, and I was prepared. I worked every day like I was going to be that player. And then when I did step into that role, I was fortunate to just hop in there and take advantage of an opportunity.
Phil, let me ask you, we're in the media here, and you hear all kind of rumors about you guys are in the locker room, right? You're in the locker room here, but when you're down at Dallas, you're in the locker room. players hear all the squawking that goes. Like Romo took a lot of heat for not being able to make the playoffs or not being successful in the playoffs. Does that permeate the locker room? Do people do they worry if the players hear that stuff, or is it all like
nah, you're putting the blinders on as a player.
You don't pay. I know guys pay attention to some of it. They have to. They read the press.
I mean, you're people. It's hard not to. But I think a big part of your job is, put the blinders on, get out all the distractions. Think about this: where a guy, you're playing in the NFL, you're playing on a field where 100,000 people are there watching you, millions are on TV watching. You're thinking about what you got to focus on. You're thinking about playing all the other things. Obviously, it is a small part of it. But I think guys do a phenomenal job of, staying in their lane, staying in their zone, and focusing on what they have to.
When you get to the professional game, how important is chemistry? Because you see college kids are more enthusiastic, it seems like, right? And you get the pros, it's a business. So how much does chemistry play a part in the professional in football, a professional football team?
Well, you know what? I always thought that before I played in the pros. When I was in college, I'm like, nothing like college football, the enthusiasm. I mean, the enthusiasm is there in the NFL. It's just, maybe it shows up in a little different way, but the chemistry part is huge. And look at the Patriots right now. I mean, the chemistry they have, the guys they bring in, and teams who have found success. It is a huge part of it.
Rob, you have to overcome adversity. Obviously, as an athlete, you're taught to overcome adversity. How much did that play a part in writing this book?
Well, a lot of it. For us, it was more so like, let's find the best practices because we want to know. Like we were going through a struggle and we were, trying to figure out the next steps. And that was like our first thought. Well, like, let's talk to people who've done it, like who were successful athletes like us who are now successful doing other stuff. So we reached out to them and that's kind of like, so much of the advice kind of began that way. Like, let's go find it for us because I want to know what to do next. Like, how do successful people do it?
Right. How do you put your head down and get to the business of after sports? Well, you got another text message, Josh?
Let's squeeze in two more texts before we hit the break here. 609-403-0973. Texter says, how long did it take Phil to do his hair this morning? That thing looks red carpet ready.
I guess he saw that on Twitter already.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a quick gel. Less than a minute, brother. Love it.
One more guy says, Billy, I'm with you, man. I get fired up about any Philly sports. I'm always told at the bar I'm too crazy. You got to love it when there's the fight chant sounding in the stadium after a touchdown, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, as a player, like, you came into Philadelphia, you hear, when the Eagles scored, you hear that song, Fly Eagle. As a player, what's that do to you? I mean, you hear the passion coming from the players or from the fans. That's got to help the home team, right?
Well, I'll tell you what I remember hearing is when I was playing
up in... A lot of booze?
That, of course, but here's the thing. I can remember playing up at the link, and there's a guy behind the Cowboys bench who... he probably paid $1,000 for that seat, and the entire game, I don't even think he watched it. He's just screaming at the Cowboys players, cursing, screaming, everything you can imagine. And the things he said, it's one of the things where it's not funny at the time because you're in it.
Right.
But after the game, it's like, hey, you hear what that freaking guy said? What's the matter with that guy?
All right. I'll tell you what, we're having a great time in here. We have Rob Curley on the phone. We have Phil Costa in the studio talking about their new book, The Transition Playbook for Athletes, How Elite Athletes Win After Sports, by Phil Costa and Rob Curley. I want to remind people to get down to the AC Bar and Grill because all the locals are hanging out there this summer. It's the place to be. It's great. The food's awesome. Atmosphere is phenomenal. Serving steaks, seafood, spirits, and sports in Atlantic City for over 25 years. It's simply the place to be. This Atlantic City institution is located at the corner of Pacific and South Carolina Avenue and has plenty of convenient free parking. Check out all their sports and celebrity memorabilia that line the walls as you watch this game of the South Jersey Throwback Bar and Grill. Mention the locker room. Get 99-cent draft beers with your order of wings, famous wings or mussels. For more information, go to acbarandgrill.com or call them at 609 348-8080. That's the AC Bar and Grill. We got to go down there and put your picture on a wall, Phil.
Let's do it.
All right.
Phil, before we get out of here, we got to talk about you getting a chance to be a starter. You mentioned, Andre wrote earlier, guy was arguing one of the best centers in the league when you came in, and then one day you're the starter and he's not. Talk about your experience with that whole situation.
Well, Andre is a great dude and a 5 or 6 time Pro Bowl center. Probably one of the best centers to ever play the game. And for me, it's short. I'll keep it in one sentence. Was it was an opportunity. And I was able to take advantage of an opportunity and be ready, and you know how these things are in sports, contracts and all that. So, for me, it was just an opportunity.
What's the atmosphere like when you're moving up, you're going up the depth chart and then his job's in jeopardy? How was he towards you?
Well, at that time, he wasn't there. But
that's why it was crazy because, again, from the outside looking in, we're all wondering, what the heck is going on down there? Is the Jersey guy going to get his shot? Is Andre going to show up one day and just take his job back?
Give it to the Jersey boy. Part of the thing, Jersey boys. Well, listen, I want to take this time to thank Rob Curley. He's on the line with us. Rob, thanks a lot for being there. I know you got a busy day today.
Pleasure, Billy, man. Thanks for having me.
And we'll do this again, Rob.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Next time we'll have both of you guys in the studio.
Yeah, it sounds great, man. I got to get down to Ocean City here sooner than later, man.
We'll take you over to Uncle Bill's Pancake House.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love Uncle Bill's.
Yeah, man. One of my sponsors. All right, thanks, Rob. Phil, thank you so much for coming in, man, and really nice meeting you. And the book, The Transition Playbook for Athletes, going to go on sale here in a couple weeks. How athletes win after sports. It looks like a great read. I like the character, the pictures of each individual.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Yeah, Phil, thanks for having me on, brother.
Yeah, it's a good time. I want to thank Jeff Nash from calling in from Greece with his Preakness report. Thanks, Rob and Phil, for being here. Josh, as always, thank you for being my producer, director, my ambassador of Quan. What do you got coming up next on the Sports Bash?
We're going to talk some NBA playoffs, some Sixers as well. Our 97.3 ESPN.com Sixers insider, Michael Caskey, will join me at 1 o'clock. And we'll talk a little Eagles as well. We'll touch on the NFL and stuff going on there.
All right.
Phillies, maybe.
Phillies, a little Phils. Phils are on today at 4. I want to thank people for making the locker room party your Saturday because nothing could be finer than talking sports with the Schweiner. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Let's go, Phils. We'll see you next week in the locker room on 97.3 ESPN.